Hi everyone, Agent here, and this video is going to be a little longer than normal. We're going to use a Tesla build, but it's a homebrew. I built this one. It is on the shop. I'm not trying to advertise it. I may even take it down because it's not that great compared to the other Tesla builds. But it works, and that it works because of people not paying attention, and some of the game mechanics actually lend towards ambush tactics. In fact, the most effective tactics in this game are ambush tactics, no matter what weapons you're using. And I thought about this the other day when using plasma. Typically, I will try to dictate when the fight happens, and I guess that's true with any game, is ambush tactics and getting the drop on your opponent are the most effective. But this game lends to them even more with high alpha strike weapons and stuff like shotguns, which are high alpha strike. Shotguns, plasma devastators, chain shredders to an extent, but they do have a wind-up time, and our favorite, Teslas. Now, I actually don't play Tesla a lot. I'm probably still at less than 10 games under my belt with this build. I did a couple test games. I made a few minor adjustments to it, and I just don't play it that often because I like playing with plasma right now. But we're going to go ahead and use it anyway in this match and see how well we do. We lost all of our blades, so obviously it's got a blink on it. It's 1988 CPU, so it's almost at max CPU. We've got two large props for forward and backward propulsion, and excuse me. We've got two small props on the sides to assist with strafing, which I don't really use a whole lot. It is important. I have played this with camera controls, and it is almost as effective with keyboard controls as camera, but I use camera with camera relative tilt because it seems like it helps ever so slightly with the hover blade's descent rate, because I'm aiming downward while I go forward. That is one of the weaknesses of this build, is the hovers are so unresponsive that sometimes on an incline I find it difficult to hit opponents, and then when they move around a lot, it's actually pretty difficult to hit them because of how sluggish hovers are to move. So this build is actually a lot tougher to use than your CRF build. I don't even know what they call them right now, but your typical one with the mega hover blades, the rudders and the thrusters all over it. It is a lot harder to use than that because it is a lot slower. However, it is more survivable and more controllable when heavily damaged, so it's kind of a trade-off. But as you can see, one of the basic tactics of using these things is that you ambush your opponent. You come up behind him, you flank him, you come from the side. That guy was trying to lock onto me, and now I flipped over because of the wonderful collision in this game. And so we're going to have to blink out of there and go heal. But the basic tactic of this, the use of Teslas, is to come up from behind. And you can hear this bot coming. You can hear the propellers. It's not quiet. You can hear the cloaking device for those players that always have to approach with cloak, and there are a lot of CRF pilots out there that always use cloak to approach, and you can hear that, and that should be your clue to start looking around because something's about to happen. It's probably a shotgun hover, or it's probably a Tesla build coming for you cloaked. So start looking around when you hear that. You don't even necessarily have to be able to see it that well, as long as you can hear it. And if you have a radar on your bot, it will actually point at a cloaked build. It will not give you an indication that it's there. It will not highlight it on the minimap, and it will not highlight it on your screen, but the radar dish itself will point at the cloaked bot. That's something that a lot of people don't seem to know or pay enough attention to. So when I hear a cloaked bot, I immediately look at my radars, and they're pretty easy to spot after that because the radar tells you where to look. So again, we're going to ambush our opponent, and we're going to pick the one in the back to hit first. When you ambush your opponents, you don't just go right into the middle of them. You come up from behind. So this guy seems to think that I'm going to come over the hill, or I don't know what he's doing, why he's trying to hide there, and he didn't even see me. I guess he's looking at the sky. So I just came back around and mowed him down with the Tesla Lawnmower. But again, that's why these builds are so effective, is because people don't pay attention. I was going to go for him, but I decided to go for the guys taking our tower instead, because that is the part of the game that these Teslas are strongest at in Battle Arena is defending towers and assassinating enemies that are otherwise occupied looking up into the tower. And that is one of the mechanics of the game that lends to the effectiveness of Teslas, is that your enemies have to be looking at something else. It's not that they're not paying attention, it's that they're busy playing the game. They're busy playing the objectives. So that lends strongly to an ambush with a very high damage weapon like Tesla blades. And I could use some more Tesla blades on this, but I don't have a whole lot of room to mount anymore. I don't have a lot of CPU left. I could probably lose my E-plates on the side, or maybe one radar or something, but generally I'm not going to have enough CPU left to put more blades on this thing, so I have to take what I can get. And being really high CPU, I can't really approach right up to my targets cloaked. I can't really be cloaked because I burn too much energy doing that. But that helps because a lot of people, they hear that cloaking device. I can't even say a lot, but some players hear that cloaking device and they immediately start looking around, and that's what you should be doing when you hear a cloak. So we're going to get out of there. We assassinated one target. We're out of the range of the shotgun, so I'm just wasn't going to worry about blinking out of there, and then I decided to, just to get the auto heal started faster. Blink and cloak are very powerful tools. Blink is really good for escaping, but if you're using a lower CPU bot, it's also really, really good for a surprise offensive attack. I typically use it more for escaping, especially with the build such as this, because I really need full energy when I come up against all these high CPU opponents. See opponents with like really high health values, such as the guys I'm going after right now. They have large tanks, don't seem to have any modules, and they have a lot of hit points. So I need to be able to have all of the energy possible to fire those Tesla blades continuously and deal enough damage to kill them before they remove my blades. And it only works about half the time with these gigantic land chips. They can have like 3 or 4 million hit points. I think about 3.5, maybe 4 million is probably the max. But they can have a lot of hit points, which is going to take quite a lot of cycles of your Tesla blades to chew through all that hit points, and it's going to consume a lot of energy. So a lot of the Tesla builds are a little bit lower CPU than what I use, but this thing is very survivable, as you can see between the cloak, the blink, and its just mass and its hit point value. It's actually very survivable. The Tesla blades aren't very strong. They were weakened a while back to nerf the Ninja Star Tesla bots, which was perfectly fine with me. You should not be able to fly right into the face of your opponent with Tesla blades and kill them like I'm trying to do now. And see, it doesn't really work. He shot all my blades off that quickly. So we're just going to blink out of there. We're going to go up here and hide. We're going to heal up, and then we're going to try it again because he's going to be occupied looking at the tower. We've got a rail shooting at me, but the way I've got my Tesla blades connected, they're connected in groups of 2 and 3. They're not all on a single strip, so I can take a few shots, and they have to shoot the blades, each little group off one by one. They can't just shoot one spot and remove all the blades because they're connected and the damage is routed to completely different locations. So we're going to fail again there. Fail in terms of killing. As far as I'm concerned, if I delay a tower against 2 opponents and even manage to kill one of them and delay that tower capture, it's some form of success, because there's not a whole lot of bots out there that are going to be able to 1v2 large opponents like this, especially opponents rocking a chain gun and a missile launcher and rails. Just not going to be able to pull that off very well. So he shot all of our blades off again. I do feel like this is a very, very fair Tesla build because, for one, like I said earlier, it's got loud propellers. Its top speed is like 260, maybe 270, somewhere in there, and that's an overclock 15. Its base speed is like 210 to 220 at overclock 1, so it's no faster than your typical reasonably fast hover. So, and it's not very agile compared to some of the other Tesla builds. It will miss, and if you miss, you're going to have to get lucky or catch an opponent that's not very agile either to finish the job. So, ambush tactics. That's the way these things are played. That's how I hit the guy I killed just before this guy, and then we're going to wrap this guy up with our lawnmower. We're going to finish him off, and then we're going to go for another target. See, he's busy shooting at someone else, and in this case, you could say he's actually not paying attention because two of his allies just died right next to him, and it makes a hell of a lot of noise when people are dying to these Teslas. If you've heard them die, it's really loud. You can't miss that sound, and it's pretty unmistakable with the crashing, the crunching, and the zapping noises that the Tesla blades make. So if you hear that sound, it's probably wise to turn your attention towards it. Now, the chain shredder guy spotted me. I was going to go for the mech, but the chain shredder guy would have been wound up by the time I started dealing damage, and I don't want to die. I don't want to look at that respawn screen, so that was a fail, and I just had to get out of there and reset the whole encounter. So what we're going to do is heal up, and then we're going to come back around behind everybody, not just fly straight at them, and we're going to get them in the back. Ambush tactics. It's what make these things work. It's not the fact that they're particularly fast, or some of them are particularly fast, and that does lend to their effectiveness, but that's not why you're dying to them. I fought these fast ones, the average player, with everything from rails to wasps to ground plasma, and if you're paying attention to your sounds and your radar where it's pointing, even on lower graphics, you can see where they're at, and there's an ever so slight shadow on lower graphics. It's very hard to see. It is harder to see than on fastest, but if you're paying attention to the sounds, where it's coming from, and you're looking at your radar dish, they're not that hard to spot. I think a lot of the problem is that I'm using pretty high-end equipment here, and you have a lot of people that play this game on crap tops, and they're using the little speakers in their laptops, so they can't really hear as well, and they're playing on a super low res. And that's why people are crying for, I hate to use the word crying, I'm not that guy. They're not crying, they're asking for nerfs, because they're just not playing, they're playing on substandard equipment is the problem. Right now I'm playing on a pretty well-built PC. I've got a nice $100 headset. Not super high-end, but it is fairly high-end. I'm using an FX8350 at 4.5 gigahertz. I've got it overclocked on a Sabertooth 990 FX R2.0 motherboard. Plenty of RAM. I've got 16 gigs of RAM. I've got dual GTX 770s and SLI. So I've got a good setup here. I'm playing on almost average equipment. There's people out there, playing on their i5s, and even an i3 would be fine for this game. But hardware specs aside, that's not the point. That's not why I made this video. It's that if you're playing on substandard equipment, you can't expect the game to be developed specifically for you, and screw everybody with the high-end equipment. They're going to have to play down at your level. That's really not the way that should work, and if it did, it would be stifling game development. We would only be able to develop games for the lowest pieces of hardware. And hell, right now I've got a freaking Core 2 Duo E8500 build still sitting in my kitchen I could be playing games on, and demanding that everyone make games for that with a 9800 GT graphics card. But that's not the way it works. Games are developed with the median in mind, and some games are developed with high-end hardware only in mind, and they don't really care if you're trying to play this on a crap top. Luckily, Robocraft is free to play, and it is geared towards a wide range of audience, from casual young members to college guys that are a little more serious and competitive, to gray bush gamers like me, who are dads of kids who are in college and college age already. So it encompasses a wide range of players. which is another problem. It's not really a problem, but it's another reason why people think that certain things are OP. Is you get a lot of younger players who don't have a lot of experience playing shooter games and doing anything aside, anything tactical aside from lining up and shooting each other Civil War style. And they've got a lot to learn about gaming, so of course they're going to go to the forums and they're going to complain about things that are OP. And I don't mean it as an insult. There's nothing wrong with being young. Everybody was young one day, and I still act young sometimes. I act like an idiot, just like pretty much everybody else does. So we got busted there. We're going to go back to what's going on in game. We got caught, and so we just blinked out, and we're going to go help defend our towers for a minute while things cool off in base, and they realize that I've gone elsewhere. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to help our allies finish this guy off. I'm actually going to fly away before he's finished off because it doesn't take two of us to kill that thing. He's so heavily damaged, there's no point in me even trying to steal that kill, so to say. Let me take a drink because this video is a lot longer than normal. So this guy just spawned in. Our team is in their base. I actually don't advocate going into the base without all three towers because, for one, their shield's up. They're going to have that passive auto heal. For two, you're just not going to deal a whole heck of a lot of damage to their reactor. And see, now everybody that was in there is gone. They're not in there anymore. They died. They did get to respawn, but they all got sent back to base to start over, and now their team gets to push out and try to capture a tower back. And we're at a disadvantage because all they have to do is capture the tower by their base back to get their shield back and start the whole thing all over again. So it's always best to take all three towers before you go into their base. That way they don't have auto heal, and you're going to be dealing maximum damage to those crystals. Otherwise, you're kind of working against yourself. And bear in mind that when everybody's in their base, or some players are in their base, they are going to spawn outside of their base closer to the towers. So sometimes it's good to have guys like me out here with a Tesla that are only good at killing, that clean up those guys before they get to the tower and take it back, which is kind of exactly what I'm doing here. I'm trying to kill everything before it can kill my allies, so my allies can work on the reactor, and kill everything before it can get out of base. So there you have it. We used a basic Tesla build. I wouldn't really call it basic. It's very complicated, but it's not OP. It's a very fair build, and I still did really well on damage. Didn't die at all. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.